Hello, and welcome to Community Connections. Today we are going to have a conversation with someone who's behind the camera, behind the desk. His name is Joe Windish. Welcome to Community Connections again, Joe.
Thanks, Glenna. Good to be here.
I know you're very busy these days because you're trying to get rid of all those glitches that we are seeing on LMC-TV.
You're not seeing glitches, you're seeing programming.
Oh.
And there's programming on 3 channels 24 hours a day. That is important. And so that is the new playback system. And the new playback system is a video server-based system. That means that we don't use videotape. We play it back directly from computer hard drives. And so, yes, we use videotape to record the show, some shows, and then we take them and put them onto the computer, and then they can be automatically played and replayed.
Now, for some of us who may not be into all of this tape and cassette and hard drives and CDs and all of that thing, just tell us that again so that some people have stopped me in the street and said, why are you jerking that way?
Now, okay. There are, right this minute, there is in some programs a phenomenon that is freezing. That means that what happens is the video and the audio get out of sync and they to catch up. And that is a problem that we are trying to locate and fix. And we've actually done a number of things to make them not happen. And it's interesting how they happen because we have to sort of methodically go through all of the different potential causes. But it doesn't happen in every program, and in those programs where it does happen, it doesn't happen consistently. So I sit in the office and I watch, I see a freeze, and so I rewatch and I time it and I look at exactly where to see if it freezes there again.
Well, it's good to know that someone is right on top of this problem. And I know it would be you.
The thing is, I do want to say that what we have decided for the time being is that it's better to have the programs on with those occasional freezes than to not have the programs on as much. Because what it means is that you are seen at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're on 24 hours.
Yes.
And so, meanwhile, we are working on the problem and the problem will be solved.
Now, if we have any newcomers to our audience, tell them perhaps what is public access television?
Well, public access television is the idea that people should be able to make TV, not just watch TV. And for me, it's rooted in documentary. I came out of documentary. My training was documentary. I thought I was going to be a documentary maker, and I still think that I am a documentary maker, only instead of me making the film, the channels become a living, breathing document of the community. So for me, it came from documentary. But the other thing that it's rooted in is this notion of media literacy or visual literacy, where in print, reading informs writing, writing informs reading. By reading, you become a better writer. By writing, you become a better reader. On television, all you do is passively sit and watch. And I actually think that the dumbing down of television is something of a function of that all we can do is sit and watch. It's the equivalent of if you're a 4-year-old saying, Mommy reads See Spot Run to me, Fun with Dick and Jane, and every night they want you to read the same book and you just keep reading the same book, you never get any further. By being able to make television yourself and understand what television is about and fill in the gaps in television that you see, you understand more about what you're watching, and so you become a more critical viewer, and you also gain other skills. So,
it's a volunteer effort. Should we mention that? That everyone can come.
Yes, everyone is welcome to come in and do a program. You have to be trained on the equipment. You have to work to get the skills that it takes to make a program. And that is an interesting little mix of things because, yes, since it's a volunteer effort, it means that to really do a television program, you need to spend all the hours learning and most people have other jobs and all that kind of stuff. So the trick for us is to give the support to the volunteers that makes the programs happen and look good, but not so much support that we're doing it for them. And that balance is always a tricky thing.
Oh, yes. And the public access covers a particular community. We now cover the Board of Education and the village, the town meetings. And if you really want to know what's going on in your village, you really can't find it in the New York Times.
Right. And I won't say anything about the Gannett newspaper.
No.
But public access is actually, there's three kinds of access: public access, education access, and government access. And the idea was that these institutions had no direct access to the media. They only could be filtered through a reporter or whatever. You send your press release out, you try to get covered, and someone else tells the story, and then they tell the story their way, not your way.
Right.
So the public, the schools, and the governments, the idea of the access movement was to give unmediated direct access. And so we are PEG access, public education and government access. And so that means that we do the school board meetings, the town board meetings, the village board meetings, the election programming, and that's why you see programs like the mayors have shows and the different elected officials have programs. So, and the idea there is to go back again to Revolutionary War times where
the
pamphleteers, would do their pamphlets, and that the idea was that you had advocacy journalism where, I advocate for my position, as opposed to the notion of objectivity, which only entered journalism in this century.
It really supports democracy.
And the idea, yes, I certainly think that the idea of public access is that it's rooted in democracy, that you can have television that informs the public, that involves them in their community, that lets them know what's happening and makes them better citizens, more informed. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yes, you are succeeding, because you are covering all of the meetings. In fact, I think perhaps some people are staying home and watching the meetings rather than going to the town hall or the village halls to see the actual meetings. And your crew, and it's run by many young people. I'm more delighted to see how many young people, because they're into the technology more than people of my youth.
Well, actually, that reminds me that LMC-TV began in December of 1983. And in the entire 15 years of our existence, we have spent less money than one episode of Seinfeld,
I'm sure.
or one star's salary for one episode of Seinfeld,
I think so.
And so we are spread. I mean, what we do. So yes. It is young people, volunteers, but also, I mean, a lot of the high school students come through here, which is, we think, really good. And
it's a wonderful experience for youngsters.
And so they do the meetings. There are equipment issues that have been going on with the meetings that are going to be rectified sooner. I think that there have been sound issues that I've certainly heard about time and time again. And some of that is training, some of that is equipment, and some of that is structural to the system, and all of it is being addressed, and so all of it should be solved soon. However, there are always going to be human error, and actually, again, I think that there's a certain level of technical troubles that are acceptable, that we don't mind. I think that what's interesting is the camcorder impact on MTV, that shaky camera style where the camera goes all over, that's a function of the camcorder, and it's interesting because it's become style, or a visual style that truthfully doesn't make a better image. It's not like you see better but when the camera shakes. I don't know, that I haven't been watching a lot of television lately, so I don't know, maybe shaky cameras are out again, but that handheld look, and certainly at home, sometimes when we can feel like closed-circuit television, like this is our closed-circuit community TV, just stick the camera out the window and let it on, as opposed to, having a blue screen up or nothing on the channel, can be very interesting. And so when you get that immediate feel, that's fine. But you do want to be able to hear it without annoyance and see it. And so we are working on that. And actually, I think that there's no question. I did a demonstration for our board because I think that perceptions linger. And so we've come out of 5 years of negotiating a contract, 5 years of where our budget was cut, the equipment was too old, and then right into having to rebuild, and we've refurbished this studio, re-equipped with new equipment.
But where do you get the revenue from in order to create public access?
What happens is the cable company has to get a franchise to use public rights of way. The public owns the streets. The cable company uses the streets to lay cable and make money, and in exchange for the use of those rights of way, it pays a fee to the municipalities. Also, the federal government set out guidelines for what you're allowed to negotiate. You can say, okay, cable company, you can use our streets, but you have to give us X, Y, and Z. Now, what happened is the federal government stepped in and said, you can't ask for A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q. You can only ask for X, Y, and Z, and X is a franchise fee, Y is equipment, and Z is channels. So you're allowed to ask for a franchise fee that the federal government caps, and channels to put the public on, and equipment. And so we negotiated a contract that is a very good contract. And the cable company, Cablevision now, has been very good at working with us and actually has gone the extra mile, even though things have not come online as quickly as we'd like. It's true, I think I'm learning that that's true in the world, you know. The equipment suppliers, doesn't matter where you go. So this has been quite a learning experience for me, and as I was saying, we have refurbished this studio, completely re-equipped the Mamaroneck High School studio. We are in the process of putting in a new studio in Rye Neck and have the playback system and town center that we were talking about before. So it's been quite an ambitious undertaking for a small community organization. I always say LMC, we're not TV. We're a community organization, and we use television as our tool for trying to build community. The goal is about bringing people together, bringing neighbors together.
But I think you can tout the advantages and the things that LMC-TV has done, because people come to visit, to learn about
right.
how to bring about a public access in their community.
Right. Access is an interesting thing nationally, because there is no such thing as a national standard. And I think that if you look at access channels around, we are well known around the country and around the world for what we do here, because we do have a very high level of involvement. We do produce, there's about 1,000 hours of programming. That's 20 hours a week of programming that comes out of this community of 10,000 homes. I mean, in terms of cable systems, you look at it as 10,000 subscribers. So that's a very high rate. In Manhattan, where they have 500,000 homes, they have 1,200 programs. And so, or if you do the ratio, you find that, wow, that's very high. I mean, when we were doing the research for the negotiations, we found that we really stack up very well among communities. I mean, whether you base it on our budget size or on our community size. So anyway, we're also members of the Alliance for Community Media, and that has gotten us lots of attention around the country and around the world. We've had a couple, there was a reporter from Tokyo here last week. There are 2 books being written in Japan that we're a chapter in one, because Japan is just now getting wired and looking into this kind of thing. Next week we have people coming up from the Educational Video Center from Manhattan and from someplace in Tennessee. So yeah, we get a lot of visitors, and also, yes, I should say, all around. Rye was originally based on us. So I don't know how many years ago by now, but Pleasantville has been here.
New Rochelle.
New Rochelle. We're doing a lot with New Rochelle.
Yes.
And now I don't mean to be the only one to blow our horn. There are other horns to be blown in Westchester.
It's true.
I mean, Greenberg is doing stuff, and
yes.
White Plains has but we have a different ethos, I'm losing my words here, way of doing access, meaning that we are much more volunteer-based, and we really do try and give the volunteers enough support. A lot of places require that you can't do a program unless you get all your camera people, unless you buy your tape, unless you, take 6 hours of certification courses and then another course in this and another course in that. Which, for example, in Manhattan, they can do that because for 500,000 people are trying to use one little facility. Well, it's a big facility, but it's still not a big enough facility.
Right.
So we try to get a balance there. We do want people to ultimately, if you're coming in all the time, to get self-sufficient. We want to bring, the other one we do is there are only 3 kinds of people out there. There are people who want to be on TV, there are people who want to make TV shows, and there are people who have something to say. And our goal is to bring those 3 people together and so that they can get their word out. Because we are always getting calls from community organizations, from the schools, from different people saying there's stuff going on, how can we get that known in the community? And so
I used to get more calls about those things than I
think,
recently.
Again, I think that there's a lapse in the time it takes for people to start realizing that we're back.
Oh.
And because for a long time, there wasn't programming on as much. There wasn't as much programming going. People like this studio, for example, there was so much going wrong here that people didn't want to use it anymore.
But perhaps you should tell people that we're at the studio in the
right.
library.
We're in the library, in the Marinick Library.
Next to the Emmeline.
Off the Emmeline Theater lobby.
Because there are always newcomers watching.
Right.
Yes. And so this is a good thing for them to find out another thing, another plus about living in the Larchmont Mamaroneck community.
Well, the other thing, actually, I should say, what month are we in? We're in April.
April.
We've had a strategy, which was actually that in March and April, we were having we started installing the equipment in September. The installation didn't really get done, and it's only really finishing now, but didn't get fully implemented until this year. And so we've been giving orientations and training to all of the existing producers, and then it was our goal that we start doing outreach and bringing in new people in May. So we are going to be doing an outreach campaign where we get on the channel. We do want you to come in, and we want you to tell us what's going on in this community so that we can get it on the channels. We really do want you to be able to look at the channels and look over a week and really find out what's going on in the community and say, oh, I didn't know that was happening. Oh, isn't that interesting? And oh, see that, I see that,
Oh, this is above and beyond the bulletin board.
Oh, yes, no, above and beyond the bulletin board.
Yes, because some people I find now are beginning to rely only on the bulletin board rather than calling community connections and letting us know.
Well, there's also been, one of the other things that's coming online is our new telephone number and our new telephone system, which I know, voicemail, I'm telling you, but voicemail has its pros and cons. One of the problems for us was, where do you call? We have 3 facilities and we're going to have a 4th. Where do you call? So we're going to have one central number, and that number will forward out to all the other locations, and that number is 381-2002. And so you call that, and yes, you get a menu for people, for locations, for classes, but that will mean that there will be one place to call, because you call over here and they say, well, no, you have to call over there. And
right.
so the other thing that's interesting about the way we're spread out, if we were focused in one location, when they were redoing Harbor Island, it was a dream to have one LMC facility down there. But because what this community wants to do is have the schools, have the government and the public, all 3 be served. And so we are in the school districts, we are in the town center, we are in the library.
But it's a wonderful advantage for children in the school system. I've seen little ones in hammocks creating and making up their own programs and editing, and it's just wonderful to watch them, because I said, my God, I don't think I can do that at all, because I'm not into the technology. But it's a wonderful experience from elementary school straight through, I think about the 6th grade, I think they begin to use this technology. When they come out of the 12th year, some of them can be almost ready, I think, to go to a studio to get a job. Do you think,
there's no question that this community, you get the basis that you need to, you can go and get a job. In fact, that was another thing for myself. It was a question of, do I go directly to a job or do I go to school? I went to school and then got a job.
Well, do you have any knowledge of any of our graduates who have gone on I suppose you don't follow up.
I
Oh, you
actually do, but I don't know. It's terrible because they do come back and they come and talk to us, and it's always wonderful. But I don't know all the locations. Like, yeah, I don't really know the companies that they're at. I mean, they're in different towns and different places.
And we've had people on the news who have gone on to professional jobs, coming straight from LMC-TV News. And there's one little fellow that used to come at the news. It was his bar mitzvah, and he was making up a show for his own bar mitzvah. It was wonderful to see him doing it, planning it, and it was just wonderful, wonderful.
And we want to put that on the channel. I mean, again, I always tell people, put your wedding on the channel. You know, you have it shot, put it on the channel. In newspapers, they have the bridal page, don't they? I mean, so why not? You know, that way all the neighbors say, oh, she got married.
I didn't get an invitation to that.
So, I mean, the thing I think, training is one aspect of what we do, but the other thing that really is important to us is that we're, you know, ongoing part of the fabric of the community. We're just not a training ground to go off and do something real. We are legitimate in and of ourselves as an end. There's not, like, there is no other way. The newspapers have found you can't have we used to have a local paper here. You can't, it's not economically feasible. Certainly you can't have a local TV station. I mean, where are you going to get it? We're the only way that you're going to be able to get this, where you get the people with passion in the community, and they come in, and they're passionate about their subject, and they get to express that passion. The things that I always like, in fact, my favorite shows are when I see somebody who's not a polished, here I'm, but who is really expressing their love of what they do. I mean, I don't know if you saw the flower show that was on. We played it through the Easter holiday quite a bit. But I loved the way she ended that, where she just sort of said, I hope that you got something out of this, because, you know, I really love what I do and I love doing this. Yes. And I think that came through. There she was. It was the way a friend would show another friend, you know, I want to show you, look at what I'm doing. And that is what's so important, what's so lacking, in my view, from commercial television, where you have reporters plunked down in neighborhoods that they've never been, speaking with all kinds of expertise about what's going on, when they're not of the community. They don't speak from an experience that is the community. And what we can do is give you that firsthand. This is a community resident who has a knowledge and a history in the community and who knows the neighbors, speaking from their own experience. And so I think that makes up for the lack of polish. And I really think, and I went to NYU's film school, and I was there just when it became Tish's film school. And that means that they gave us all kinds of fancy equipment. And I actually delayed my graduation so I could play with that fancy equipment. And what I found, and what is a phenomena that happens, I think, to all of us, just like when you get a word processor, suddenly you're making every font and every color and everything, that I like substance over style as opposed to style over substance. And so for me, I think, like, we have a lot of talking heads. I think it's legitimate talking heads. I am more interested in getting stuff from the community on that is of the community, that is rooted in the community. That's what's really important to me.
Well, you're very, very busy. You view practically every show?
I don't view every show, no.
No, it would be impossible, but I'm sure you view practically every show. Well,
actually, if you watch in the afternoon, you end up seeing Joe's classic picks. Because, you know, in the afternoon, I tend to go through our tape library and pull out, you know, old shows and stick them on. And the reason I'm doing that, actually, is to show some of the history that, actually, LMC-TV now has a history.
Yes, I see the 1983 classics. But where are the archives?
The archives are in the town office at 740, with, you know, on the third floor. That's where sort of the hub is. And we haven't talked to LMC Online. LMC Online, you may recall, was our computer effort, and we actually hope to bring some of that back. I mean, what happens is that it does become a clearinghouse. We are a clearinghouse for lots of what goes on in the community. And so
So when a sixth grader gets ready to do his or her PhD, they can go to the archives at Town Center and pull out a history of their community.
Right.
I mean, that's
Well,
how
now,
I see
I
it.
don't mean that we do not keep every single show. Please don't think that we do. In fact, one of the other things that we're doing with the Playback Center, the idea is you give us the tape, we put it onto the server, and we give you back the tape. So, because one of the largest expenses that we have, I mean, what are our expenses? Personnel and tape, no, and equipment, but.
And so we have to do
So,
fundraising?
We do,
To
and
buy
speaking
that
of
tape.
which, there is K.T. Sullivan coming to the Emlyn Theater on, quiz me, Friday 29th? What's the Friday? The last Friday in April.
Okay.
24,
30th? 30th.
Something like that. Which is to benefit both LMC-TV, but particularly the Guidance Center. And tickets are $35. Call us at 381-2002, extension 307 for that one. The other thing that's coming up is May 7th is our Community Television Festival, where we give awards for Volunteer of the Year and the Community Communications Award. And we have then the week is a festival of programs, and then viewers pick their favorite program, and we try to acknowledge all of the producers and volunteers who have contributed programs through the year. So that's on May 7th, and here at the Emlyn Theater, and you will see it live.
Right.
Come that night, just pop in.
Yes. And how much is
What
the
else?
tickets?
What are tickets? We're doing this year, it's a suggested donation, so come, and the suggested donation is $10, but come. We want people to be in the audience and see what we're doing. It's kind of the theme is, we're back. And we are, we're back.
Good. Well, I'm delighted to hear that. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Glenna.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure to be on your program.
I hope so. Well, that's it again for Community Connections. I'm glad that you watched. I hope that you enjoyed and learned something new about LMC-TV. We are a part of the nucleus of this community, and everyone shares in it, so you also take part. Until we meet again, this is Glenna Gray for Community Connections. Stay positive.